Hi, I wanted to come on here and make a video about simulation theory. Hopefully, this turns out okay because, as usual, I am having technical issues. Oh, now it seems normal. Okay. The, the camera was moving very, very slow, but when I replayed it back, it was fine. So, hopefully, it'll stay fine. I also realized I have a 30-minute cap, which is why I had an issue on another video I had for a different channel. Anyways, this is good for me to know. And I do want to also just acknowledge that I am still going to make more Reiki videos. And hopefully I will come on here and do more videos like this. I don't know, life, everything, a lot going on. You know how life is. So, I have not done a lot of research into this, and so hopefully maybe I will, and then I can make another video. But if you do not know anything about the simulation theory, basically the simulation theory is that we are living within a simulation. So, what is a simulation? Again, I don't know the exact definition of a simulation, but when you talk about a simulation of a game, right, it means that you are replicating something, replicating reality. I don't know if that's the actual definition, but that is what just popped in for me, which we will circle back to. So, replicating reality. So, you can have like walking simulator games, right? So, you are a character and you are walking them. So, or you could do I thought of it as like a retail simulator. They have those on your phone, right? So, you can pretend that you are working a retail job. So, basically, though, these go through like a computer program. So, what it boils down to is that people are saying that we live within a computer program. And this is because people have seen, glitches in the matrix and all of these things. But what does this boil down to? This boils down to the fact that we live within the matrix. This is something that a lot of people have acknowledged, especially here within the spiritual community, right? But a lot of people throw out the word matrix, but don't really think too hard about what the matrix actually is. So, what is the matrix? The matrix, in the context that most people talk about it, is um, a sense of like confinement, a sense of rules that we live by, right? But if we think about the movie The Matrix, if you have seen the movie The Matrix, which most people have, it was a simulation. Um, they showed the program go down the computer screen, right? So there's a program that is controlling what exists within the simulation. And so that is where this simulation theory is going, is that we basically are living within a computer program, which a computer program would create this confinement and rules that the matrix is. So on one hand, you can think that what we do with simulations is we are replicating the laws and rules that exist within our matrix system, which is what we experience as our reality. But the other side of that is that we are discovering the rules and laws that control the experience that we are having. And we are replicating that into these computer programs, right? So it's really hard to know which is which. Now, we could channel, like my sister, Heather, on our Ascended Creationist channel, could channel for that information, and we probably have before. It's really hard to remember everything that we've channeled, and especially for me because I have trouble retaining information. But the more that I have experienced within the spiritual community and taking in information and things that Heather has channeled, and working with my spiritual mentor, I have realized more and more that it really is like this computer program in on either side of the spectrum. Because, for example, we talk about a Merkaba. My mentor is called the Merkaba, your super quantum computer program. And what do? You create programs for your reality. You shift your reality through these programs. So when we say that we all have our own subjective reality and that we can manifest in our reality, what's going on is we are essentially, if not in the actual terms of how you write a computer program, that is what we are doing in its essence, right? Because we have our limitations of human speech and what we can convey. So either this is the same thing, or it is a representation, the best representation in our human confines of our mind to understand what is going on, right? So the important thing is the concept behind it. What are we doing? We are creating a program that says what is going to exist and the confines of that is going to exist. So, what we have with our matrix, what we have been told through different people channeling is that we had a matrix. Okay, so the core of existence, of reality, is the 5D and above, right? Okay, that is our core experience. In order to come down and have a 3D experience, what is 3D? 3D means that we are excluding two of those D's, right? So there's more limitation within this existence. This existence is not real and tangible. And so a matrix system was created in order to create that limitation so that we could have this expansion, so that we could experience something else and then expand beyond it, beyond that 3D. But in order to do that, the matrix, this program simulation, had to be created to create these like barriers of what we could perceive and experience. And then, now I don't remember if this was only one person, multiple people, so I'm not going to say the specific here of what I was going to say, but let's just say entities, other beings, tampered with this matrix and created what is called the shadow matrix. So, the shadow matrix is what most people talk about when they are actually talking about the matrix. When they talk about escaping the matrix, they're talking about that, which is basically like a program overriding the other program. So, it's almost like if we think of our computer and we are running, okay, let's say the organic matrix is our operating system on the computer. But then, yeah, okay. So you can run, now I've never done this before, but you can run a virtual machine on your actual computer. So you would have a Windows operating, sorry, a operating system, it doesn't have to be Windows, running the actual computer system. Here I say computer system, the computer. And then you would have the virtual machine running another operating system. Now, this could be the same operating system, but it doesn't have to be. So you have an interlace. So you would have a big screen and then you would have a little screen. But yeah, so you cannot escape your actual operating system and machine, even though you are within the small one. And so anything that you are doing that is going on is happening in the virtual machine. And that is kind of what's going on. So you have the limitations of the actual matrix, and then you have the limitations of the shadow matrix. So our actual life and existence here is operated within the operating system. You cannot escape that. We cannot actually escape the organic matrix while here on this planet unless the planet itself moves out of the actual organic matrix system itself, which is what we're trying to get, trying to reach through the large event ascension that is happening, where the planet is evolving and moving up into the higher states. But our consciousnesses are locked into this shadow matrix. And so when we are awakening out of this shadow matrix. But unfortunately, just like in the Matrix movie, we are still kind of plugged in to a sense where even though we wake up, you can still fall back into the matrix without even realizing it sometimes, because we are still within that existence. So it's almost like if we were doing a VR, a virtual reality game, and we were doing it on a virtual machine. And let's say it's like one of these anime. Is there? I'm sure I've seen one, but I can't think of the example. But you go in and you become a character in this game, right? And it's so real that you forget that you are playing a game. You are this character in this virtual reality game. But then you awaken, you realize that you are playing this character. You are the player outside of this virtual reality. So then when you have that awakening, you recognize that you are within this virtual machine playing this game. But you cannot get out of this virtual machine because of the social conditions that have been put on you. So when we have interactions with people that are within this like virtual reality game, they are going to help you push you back into forgetting that you are just playing a game, that you are not this character that the game wants to tell you that you are. Which we can think about our ego as that character, basically, which the ego is not bad. It's just a recognition of how far into the ego that we are going, and there's levels of our ego, and that's a whole nother discussion. But basically we can fall too far into the ego that we forget, and when that happens, that isn't something that we need to judge ourselves for. The only thing that we need to do is to get ourselves out of it and then try to not let it happen again. Come up with, rituals that you can do throughout the day that can help you stay in that place. And limiting our interactions with certain people can help with that. Changing our environment, that may mean having to, leave the job that you've been having because it is a environment that is too lost in that sea of thinking, of shadow matrix thinking, of being confined to the certain programs, which is going to run programs. So basically throughout our entire day, depending on our mental state, we can create these programs without realizing it. And when we've had programs that have been running for a long time, it is easy to just run those programs again. But we can go in and recreate new programs and put those running, and we can set those to run all of the time. But the problem is, even if you have those running, you can overlay those with new programs depending on our mental state. And so our mental state, I was going to say, is the most important thing. Our internal vibration is obviously the most important thing. And I think that our vibration can overcome that mental state. But when we go into these mental states, it affects our vibration. And so there's this balancing. So if our vibration is still higher than the mental states, because say we were here and then we do this, then it, then we wouldn't override that program necessarily, but we might shift the program just a little bit. I know this maybe is not the clearest that I could be explaining this, but I hope that this makes at least somewhat sense of what I'm trying to say. We are not all going to be perfect, and that's kind of the gist of what I'm trying to get with this. We do not need to be perfect. You're not going to fall entirely, down back into the 3D just because you became lost and forgetful for, even several weeks, even a month. Okay, I've had it, and you can get back out of it. The thing about awakening is that the higher you get up, even when you go down, it is easier and faster to get back up to where you are, because you are changing your core internal state. And so it's easier to get back and match that, because what it is we are just forgetting, and then you have to remember, and you have to remember how to get back there. And what we can do with our physical body is very helpful with that as well, because our physical bodies will our physical bodies might be down here while our core vibration is up here, but then we can only go to a certain level of where the body will allow us to be. And so then it can be easier to fall back, because the body is already kind of dragging us down. And again, that's also part of the shadow matrix, because there's only this amount of food that's available to us, right? And then they create all of these things that make it difficult for us to escape. So they're like, this is what's available at the grocery store. If you want to eat better, then you have to grow it yourself. But to grow it yourself, you have to have land. You have to have the time. You have to, have this knowledge. And so they make it very, they make borders, obstacles, that's a better word, obstacles of entry into these things, right? So if you're only able to afford an apartment and your apartment says you cannot grow anything, then you're limited. But there are ways around that, and that's part of the expanding, right? Is you have to think about outside of the normal box. You can get small little planters, or you can reach out and find people that are growing better food, or you can find a friend with a house and ask if you can plant there. You can think of different ways, or you can go into your actual, here I will say it, your super quantum computer system, and you can just program, I will have clean, fresh food. But you need to hold on to the frequency that is going to come to you, and not have those limiting thoughts come in that, well, there's no way that will happen, and I have to figure out how that's going to happen. You have to allow the program to actually run. But at the same time, you'd have to deal with the programs that are also running below that, of like, well, only this type of person can have access to this food, or I have to buy my food from the store because of this, or whatever. So, there's a lot of intricate parts that go into everything, basically. But I'm trying to think what my original message, place I was trying to go with this video, because I feel like I went into a lot, which is good. But I guess basically, yeah, I think the core thing that I was trying to say with this video is that simulation theory is believable. I think it's true. But we have to watch how we are thinking about it. What I grasp that a lot of people take away from this, which is the thing that I don't know, because I have not watched enough people talking about this, is that people take it as as a negative thing. They take it as we are possibly being controlled. We are not living in, the real reality. There's a reality beyond this. Um, and kind of what's the point? And, there can't be God then because, we just were created by some like programmer. But what people, I think, are failing to grasp here is that who created the program? Okay, why can't God be the one that created the program? If we are being controlled, who is controlling us? God, our higher self? I and what is the goal of being here? What's the point of us being created? I think people maybe think, well, we were just created for observation, which in a sense is kind of true, but there's a deeper layer of truth here that you need to hold on to.